They say love knows no boundaries, but what happens when it crosses generations and lives take unexpected turns? Just 2 weeks after a 53-year-old woman tied the knot with a 35-year-old rapper, their whirlwind romance took a shocking twist no one saw coming. Friends and family were divided about their relationship, and the internet buzzed with opinions, some cheering them on, others raising eyebrows. But amidst the excitement of their unconventional union, something unthinkable happened that left everyone stunned. What could drive such a drastic turn of events? The answer lies in the details that unfolded behind closed doors. Stay with us as we dive into this dramatic and emotional story, peeling back the layers of a relationship that captured headlines and shook the hearts of many. You won't believe what happened next. It wasn't just the age difference that made their relationship stand out. This couple's story seemed to defy all odds. She, a woman who had spent 35 years in a marriage that was now unraveling, found herself falling for a younger man, a rapper whose life was far from the quiet suburban routine she once knew. His world of music, parties, and unpredictable moments was a stark contrast to the stability she had longed for. But despite the differences, there was something magnetic about their connection. At first, it felt like a fresh start, a chance to rewrite their stories, but no one could have predicted how quickly things would spiral. Only weeks into their marriage, things started to feel off. Tension began to build, and the once enthusiastic promises of a new beginning began to fade. But nothing could have prepared her for what happened next, something that would change everything. As the days passed, cracks started to show in their seemingly perfect marriage. The woman, once hopeful, began to notice changes in her husband's behavior that she hadn't anticipated. The carefree rapper she had fallen for wasn't always the man he presented himself to be. There were late-night phone calls she couldn't overhear, constant secrecy, and a growing distance between them. Friends and family started asking questions, sensing something was wrong, but every time she tried to confront him, he'd brush it off with a quick excuse or a charming smile. Meanwhile, her own doubts began to grow. She couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. Was it the pressure of their age gap, the disapproval from her friends, or was it something deeper, a part of him that she hadn't fully understood? As the days went on, the tension only increased. Her life felt like it was slipping from her grasp, and she couldn't ignore the fear that this marriage wasn't what it seemed. The atmosphere in their home grew colder by the day. What began as a whirlwind romance now felt like a ticking time bomb. She started noticing his disappearances, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. When she asked, he'd offer vague answers, his tone shifting from loving to defensive. The distance between them became unbearable, and yet, every time she tried to confront him, he'd turn it around, making her feel like the one causing the issues. Was she overreacting? Was she just being paranoid? But then, one night, everything came to a head. She found something that would change everything. It wasn't just a text or a forgotten message. It was something far more devastating, something that exposed not just his secrets, but the lies that had been woven between them from the start. Heart-pounding, she stared at the evidence in front of her, wondering if this would be the end of it all. Could she trust him again, or was this the final betrayal? As she stood there, frozen with the revelation in her hands, something even more shocking happened. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unfamiliar number, one she had never seen before. Hesitating, she opened it, only to find a cryptic text that sent chills down her spine. "You have no idea what he's really been up to. I know everything." Her heart raced as she tried to make sense of the message. Who was this person, and what did they know? Was it a warning, or was it someone trying to manipulate her fears? The message didn't offer much, just a time, a place, and an invitation to meet. Could this be the key to everything? Her mind was in turmoil. She couldn't ignore it, but at the same time, she didn't trust it. What if this was just another layer of deception from her husband? The tension escalated, and the stakes grew higher. Now, not only was she questioning her marriage, but she was also being pulled into a web of mystery that threatened to unravel everything she thought she knew about the man she married. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was running out of time. The message on her phone gnawed at her with every passing second. With a mixture of dread and determination, she decided to meet the mysterious sender. She drove to the location, an old abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. The air was thick with tension as she stood outside, her heart pounding in her chest. The door creaked open, and there, standing in the shadows, was a figure she didn't expect. It was her husband. But there was more. Behind him stood another person, someone she recognized, someone who had been part of her life for years. It was her best friend. In that moment, everything came crashing down. Her husband wasn't just hiding secrets. He had been part of a much bigger plan. Her best friend, the one she trusted above all, had been involved in manipulating her from the beginning. The lies, the late-night disappearances, the strange messages, it all made sense now. But the biggest shock came when her husband stepped forward, holding up a file. "We weren't just playing games," he said, his voice cold. "We were trying to protect you." The revelation shook her to her core. Her marriage, her life, everything she thought she knew was part of an elaborate scheme. But what was the true motive behind it all? As the truth unfolded, it became clear that the story wasn't over. There was still one final, unexpected twist that would change everything. As the truth unfolded, it became clear that everything had been orchestrated to protect her from a dangerous situation she had unknowingly walked into. Her husband and best friend had been part of an underground investigation into a corrupt network that had been targeting her for months. They had kept her in the dark, not wanting to alarm her, but also realizing that the danger was too great to ignore. It wasn't about betrayal. It was about safeguarding her from the very people who had been manipulating her life. In the end, she understood the weight of their actions, the complexity of their choices. While it wasn't the fairy tale ending she had imagined, it was a revelation that forced her to see the world through new eyes. She had been tested, not just in love, but in trust. And though the journey was far from perfect, it was one that ultimately brought clarity and a deeper, more honest connection with the man she had married.